Yeah. So RFK was confirmed. Cultivate medical care. We know this always. And the thing people don't realize is cults hate medical care more than they care about their people being healthy or alive, right? Because the cult always cares more about control than about operations. And also, a person who has just lost a young child is easy to control. And if you walk through cemeteries, you see a lot of child graves up until the middle of the 20th century. I wonder what happened. I wonder if it was vaccinations. It was. Oh, Keith, what's with the earrings? Is it makes bro like you say silly shiz like that and it gives me money. Have a day. Whether it's blue hair, ridiculous outfits, or earrings, you all just show up and with your misogyny. And it makes me hundreds, if not thousands of dollars every day. So you know what, Keith? Thank you for your service. Ooh, this person got a sticker. Shiny gold sticker. Astrid. Ooh. Remember Astrid. I need to put her apartment number on her. It's so cute when they think them showing up and criticize me is somehow bad for me, isn't it? Adorbs. Yeah. Yep. It's about to get ugly. We're about to see medical tourism rates rise as the middle class goes off to take their children to be okay, and the others do not. Okay, I need to find. I have to do this later. I'll do this later, Astrid. Yes, 1-1 cults, family dynamics. Yep, free engagement. This is exactly. I said when I started my thing that I hadn't studied Taylor Swift for 18 years for nothing. It's estimated that she got it was like 7 billion or 10 billion in the thing that I read of free advertising from the media being obsessed with her. And she obviously knew how to use it. So good for her. Oh, the Alice in Wonderland Tea Party was awesome. For a while, it was only me and Knitting Cult Baby. So we got the whole show to ourselves. And then also like Alice and the Mad Hatter, they came in, they did the tea party, and then they left. And then I remained hanging out at the bar because it's my happy place. And I was dressed, of course, like a card soldier with my Queen of Hearts hairstyle. That outfit has now been retired because it did not hold up. But all these people were coming up to me afterwards, and they were like, "Thank you so much for hosting this." And I was like, "Well, I didn't actually host it, but I'm going to help them advertise next time because there wasn't enough." But they did. Something's not right here. Have the Alice in Wonderland tea pack that I've been thinking of buying for a long time. Now I think I must buy it. This one is, oh boy, I'm messing things up now. If you ordered my book and never got it, it is because we got a completely unexpected 3-week delay from the printer. Because logistics, this is about to start happening in every part of our life. Thanks to old Trumpy. But I'm getting them out now. And they will all be out, we hope, by Wednesday. And I'm very sorry. There's no good, mass messaging function. So I just had to talk about it on here every day and hope that people are going to see it. These two are correct. I don't understand where Mallory came from. I'm just going to put it back there. First, we don't understand where Courtney came from. My thoughts about the recent cuts to the FAA were that I'm not surprised that airplanes are falling out of the sky and that aviation has been, aviation safety has been going down since Ronald Reagan fired a bunch of air traffic controllers. Also, right before COVID, we were in the largest dearth of pilots in history. It was very hard to become a pilot, very expensive to become a pilot. No, usually the military is a route for that. And then those pilots get in place and they stay until their forced retirement at 65. So that was just happening for everyone that came out of the Vietnam War and stayed in their jobs, because being a pilot pays a lot. Being an air traffic controller is a very safe, secure, awesome job. So people don't leave those jobs. I believe air traffic controller has like a 1% turnover rate or something. So what that means is all of the experience was retiring and all of the unexperience was coming in. This is also the situation the United States military has. Most of us with combat experience are on the veteran side now. And so already everything was going down, and they've been cutting regulation. They've been cutting skill. They've been doing all of this stuff. So yes, you should be worried about aviation safety, of course. You're also much more likely to unalive on the car riding to the airport. And you should also keep in mind that there was a survey done once, some period after 9/11, that Americans care 44% more about an unalived pilot than they do about anything else on the news. I think that this has a lot to do with space travel, and cults always promise space travel, and we have defined ourselves by owning the skies for a long, long time. But we should know that about ourselves in America. So yes, where it used to be 99.5% safe to fly, and when jets went down, they were never American. Now it's 98.5% safe to fly. And if you don't fly, you're complying in advance. Also, we're all just less safe now. And that is terrifying. It's terrifying to think that there's nothing we can do. We're just more likely to die in airplane crashes now. And that's why people love a conspiracy theory. I did crochet this sweater. And this was my scrap yarn project from 2024. I kept up all my scraps. In the back is the embroidery thread. I thought I would never wear it that way, but I wore it that way. Europe is breaking up with us because we are being an abusive partner, and it's finally become pretty obvious to them. But this is also what I keep telling you, and everyone's like, oh, Trump said he is going to do whatever. Every other leader in the world gets a vote, and they are voting. So America's been acting like she was the little girl whose daddy told her she was the prettiest girl in the room, and now she's a grown-up, and she still keeps telling everyone that it's true. And so they've been wanting to break up with us for a long time. We were just the richest and the coolest, so they couldn't. And now we're not cool. When I was in Germany in 2008, my host family kept telling me to tell everyone I was from Canada or from Brazil, where I grew up, because people hated Americans. And for me, it was always so obvious. It's like the second you get, America has this attitude of we're number one. I'm we're number one on two things. We're the richest country, and we have the highest rates of incarceration. That's it. Every other country is like, yeah, our country's great. And also, we need to play with the rest of the world. And America's like, we are the best, and with all the rest. And now we wonder why everyone hates us. You know. Fire the people in charge with the nukes. Leon posted a bunch of classified stuff online. Now that's a good example of government, because secrets only matter when they want them to. However, anytime they need to get rid of him, they've got a reason. He's filled secrets. Trump would just go like this, and Elon will be disappeared. I don't think we have the largest military anymore. I think China has a larger military than us. We do have the largest military that can go places in the world, though. It's still going to be easy to get a passport. They're not going to be able to change that very fast. That's like the good news here. It's this thing called routinization. And so in cults or any kind of organization, really, you come up with the idea and you begin to build it. And then you have to have people help you. And those people start putting rules in place and writing things down and bureaucrating. And all of that buildup, we used to think routinization made you not a cult anymore. And Mormons were the prime example. Of course, we now know that it doesn't not make you a cult. Like America is still a cult. But we have a lot of routinization done. And for those that don't know, like the paperwork really, really, really slowed down the Nazis. They were going for 3 times that many people. Right? So it's, of course, you're not wrong to be worried about the way the government's going. We should all be worried. You're wrong to be in an abject panic. You're wrong if you're white and you're acting like this is the first world America, first time America has been dangerous or harmful. And you're wrong if you're on the left believing all the conspiracy theories. But definitely everybody should be afraid. Yeah. There's a dictator trying to take over America. Also, something I've been telling Americans for 20 years, conservative Americans, like, fight this stuff all you want. Other countries are educating their people. Other countries are building their democracies. Other countries are investing in their middle class. We are not. We look at Latin America, where I grew up, with so much disdain. That's where we're headed. 1986 dictatorship Brazil. That's where we're headed. You still can't send a package to Brazil in 2025 and have it arrive. I remember living in Mexico, where you had to have money in your car every time you went out to bribe the police. And the biggest shock, and this is what middle-class Americans aren't thinking about as everyone's stockpiling their food. You and what army and what walls that are around your house is going to keep your food safe? In countries that have a large stratification between the haves and the have-nots, like Latin America, your castle is behind a wall. Your castles, my castles, are full of big windows that people could just walk through. No, I'm not going to move. I'm an extremely privileged white woman in America. I'm going to stay and fight. This is also the other thing with people, though, because like on the left, everyone's going straight to like, it's going to be a revolution. What are we going to do? We can't go on the streets and protest. Yes, you can. No, martial law. No, martial law is not feasible. Oh, but they might shoot. Did you think everyone was going to survive the revolution? We have threat briefs, and then we still go do the mission. And even when people unalive, we still continue the fight. How do I intend to fight? Oh, I'm doing it right now, every single day. And I wasn't selling 50 to 200 cult books a day when the Democrats were in office. So I finally have an answer for people saying that you could do both ways. But I'm one of the most Googleable women veterans alive. And I show up every day and I speak truth to power. Even though they could grab me and put me in Guantanamo Bay pretty much anytime they wanted, especially with Tulsi Gabbard leading. That's what I'm doing to fight. I'm strengthening other people and I'm giving them the words and the ways to think. I also know how to defend my neighborhood and with whom I will do that. And I also know that if someone comes marching down my streets talking about martial law, I'm going to fight with a bottle of pink wine, some stuffies, a lawn chair, and children. And we're going to go have a street party and look them in the face and dare them to mow us down on the streets of America. That's how I'm going to fight. Potentially, when the actual revolution starts, I'm going to have a brigade of anti-racist Amy's. I think I need 4,000 white women. And we're going to have a military maneuver called Just the Tip. And put all the white women in front, and we're just going to march them wherever we want to go. My book is on audio. But also, meet your neighbors, learn your neighbors, figure out what skills everyone has. Pay special attention to anyone that grew up in high control religion or was in the military, because we have a lot of skills, random, unique skills. But yeah, I personally spend most of the time preparing myself to be the tip of the spear, and for the fact that people like Hog's Breath have been weaponizing the concept that America's not ready to see unalive women and mothers, and they mean white. And they've been weaponizing that concept to keep us out of military advancement. And so you know what? Any good intelligence officer, I can weaponize the concept right back at you. I don't think anyone's marching yet. I don't think we've hit that tipping point. And this is what's interesting about mass movements. I actually just wrote like 3 paragraphs on the psychology of mass movements. And there comes a tipping point. There will be something that is too much and we will take to the streets. I think if they shut down the Department of Education, for example, we will take to the streets. I think if they start picking people up for autism and putting them in camps, we will take to the streets. At least the autistic people will. So far, we have not hit that American tipping point where we've decided our freedoms are worth more than our comfort. That's not what I was supposed to write. I mean, I have been marching. Me and Mr. Nathan Coltley have been to many protests. We live outside DC. We go a lot. He was out there doing a veteran protest on Thursday before he broke his arm. But yeah, they aren't being televised. So yeah, we don't even know. Nobody knows. We kind of just wake up every day and see what else they're going to do. But also, all of these narcissists are going to start turning on each other. And that's going to be fun for me. I hope midterms will change things for the better. My book is called Uncultured. It's about growing up in the Children of God religious cult and going into the cult of the U.S. Army. Yeah, and then the other thing I think especially white people should be doing is just thinking of the people that they're gonna come for, that are in your life, who you love, and walking through, like, fascism only works if you allow yourself to believe that hierarchies are valid, right? So, like, you can come for my trans sibling over my actual unalive body. Part of what I hear with everyone right now, they're like, oh, it's going to be dangerous, but I want to save me and mine. And like, that is American individualism, and that's where we are. the dictators are just going to take over because individualism is awesome for fascism and power control. So if you don't have anyone in your life that is in trouble that you are not willing to unalive for, then you're probably not in this fight. But that's where I think it's going to come. Oh, of course they'll start turning on themselves. They always do. King Henry VIII took the head off of nearly everyone who was ever a close counselor of his. Hitler got rid of a huge majority of his people and can't have anyone else taking the spotlight. Ultimately, that's not going to work. Yep, packing book orders. Getting them out as fast as I can. Still waiting on the actual stuff from the printer. I do not think it will get that far. I think it will get to Latin American levels of dictatorship and grift and greed, and people don't survive those. Many, many people disappear. And when you end systems and abruptly and move a new system forward, many people unalive. And if we go through that, it's going to be very unpleasant. I think people jumping straight to Germany is a big, big problem, actually. Like, we should be studying that, looking at the tactics, looking at the signs, but like there are so many other things right there. And I feel like part of how we comfort ourselves is, it's going to be so bad, everyone's going to be in camps, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing we can do. And like, that's apocalyptic mentality. We are still as free as we were before they took office, and we're still not really doing much. So they will not try to keep you here and not allow you to travel out of the country because one, that would take shutting down flights and that would tank our economy immediately. Two, you cannot shut the borders of America. That's the whole problem. Germany does not arrest people for humiliating them. Germany arrests people for being Yahtzees, and they're quite good at it. I have not watched the Brazilian movie. I'm not a movie person very much. I'm definitely not a serious movie person very much. No. A bunch of protests going on today at noon. Yeah, we are terrible at community in America, and especially white people are terrible at it. And I think that's going to be what we're going to have to learn. Learn everything about it. We know much more. We as Americans tend to know much more about World War II than we know about things like the fact that our CIA destabilized Brazil in the 60s, which led to a dictatorship in the 80s, which led to them still recovering from it now. No, I don't think white people have community. I think white people have given up community for whiteness. We don't even know what community means anymore. That's why we have so many cults and groups instead of just living in actual community. I had to move far, far, far away from white people's to discover how to live in community, and that's been fun. We don't have third spaces in America anymore. We don't even have, like, our kids can't even just go outside and play with friends. Like, that just doesn't even exist anymore. Like, you have to schedule playtime with people to have people come over. It's part of why there's a loneliness epidemic. Part of why there's a loneliness epidemic is because men don't know how to act. And men have been thinking they can just keep acting however they want to, and they're just guaranteed a partner. And that's just not happening anymore. They say the millennial midlife crisis is leaving your husband and checking up with a woman and getting a craft room. And I think to most millennial women, that sounds better than living with a man. So therein lies their problem. But also, yeah, we came away from the it takes a village concept and we all live in these tiny little castles. And, you know, there we go. Oh, I have pity on you for living in Oklahoma. Trust and believe. I got dropped into Texas when I came to the U.S. I think it was like my second or third duty station in the Army when I had the realization that all of the U.S. wasn't like Texas. So reason you spoke only English. Yeah, isolation, geographical abuse. Same reason that soldiers that are stationed in Germany live on post and don't speak German, even though they're there for 18 years. Eventually they taught us the languages because then they could use us to like beg on the streets better. So their racism, the children of God's racism really blew up in their face. And it was completely on accident. But like they sent us abroad. They told us that people with dark skin were cursed, but then they started religious prostitution and having Jesus babies of every race. And then they were brought in and we were all equal. Plus, without trying, you know, like when I was growing up in Brazil, like when I was in a commune surrounded by mostly white people, very much in danger. When I was out in public surrounded by mostly brown and black people, much, much safer. So it was one of the things I realized as I moved from Seattle to Maryland. I was like, oh, my blood pressure goes down as soon as the people stop being all white. And anytime I'm in a place where everybody's white, I'm like, ooh, like historically, this makes us the bad guys. And my spidey sense is just up. So, but yeah, get out and protest. Get out. Like right now, Mr. Knitting Cult Lady and I are not trying to run for office because we've been fighting our whole lives and we're exhausted. But we are out meeting people in government in case we are needed. And like putting ourselves in the right places. I think that's something like many millennials need to be thinking about running for office or giving all of their extra money to people that are. And we are trying to find the good ways to do that. I also think like my strength is building big platform, making lots of money, and then supporting people doing stuff, not running for office myself where I would be much more limited in what I could say. So I'm trying to figure out that sort of mix. Thank you. It is crochet. So I kept all of my yarn scraps from 2024 and I had 8 balls of yarn, and it was yarn and it was embroidery thread and then fuzzies. And that's what I made. And I was like, you know what? It's going to look so weird. And then it looked great. It was a good lesson because I was like, oh, I don't know if I should make it. It might look so whack. And then I made it and I was like, you know what? Even if it did look crazy, like it's made out of trash. So what was I losing? Nothing. You are on Coming to America on audiobook. And when you're done, there's a second memoir called Un-American. It's hard to describe. It's like half written. It's a whole story, but it's not a whole book. But anyways, it is. I made it a video book of me reading it on my Patreon. And eventually I will. The sleeves are knitted. They could be crocheted though. Like you could make this and then you could crochet sleeves. I just knit much, much faster than I crochet. So I always have piles of project because all my sewing and putting together is with crochet. So I always have like piles of project and I'm just waiting to get to the knitting part. See, I think it would be less amazing in government. Like I don't fit well. I stand out well. And so being inside of huge systems really bothers me, especially since I'm the one that diagnoses the problems with them. And then I bother people too. I don't know, but I'm also completely aware that I'm doing right now. I am engaged in the secular version of like pleading with God to not choose me to be the prophet. And I'm honestly pissed off. I think a lot of us cult survivors are pissed off and triggered. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me that I fought so hard and had a miserable 30 years and now I don't just get to be rich and famous and happy and popular for the next 30 years? Like, seriously?
Call BS.
Huh?
Yeah.
It is BS. That's what I said. Like, we don't want to lead the revolution. Okay, Mr. Knitting Cult Lady needs to come show everybody how he broke himself.
Yeah. I guess it's a different group of everybody this time.
Huh?
It's a different group of everybody this time.
I mean, it's whoever showed up today. Whenever I was going to run a race, people would always be like, are you going to win? Like, if nobody faster than me shows up.
Books. I see myself there. The books make it so you can see my.
Told him a couple times and he wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
There was a scooter crash on the ice. Unfortunately, he's wearing a helmet, so we're not burying him.
Probably would have just been a concussion, not death. But strongly recommend helmets if you're ever, especially if you're a regular rider. Like the more time you spend on two wheels, the more likely you are to go flying off of two wheels.
As I was going to pick you up, like every single person I saw on a scooter was not wearing a helmet.
Yeah,
I've also had a scooter crash not wearing a helmet.
A lot of the people I see do not wear scooters. I hit a patch of black ice on a scooter and I went flying over the handlebars at about 14 or 15 miles per hour and broke my wrist and forearm, essentially, part really close to my elbow.
So, by the way, the question of if I honestly believe in God is no, I've never believed in God. I have a t-shirt that says I'm just a neurodivergent atheist born to religious extremists. That's why I'm doing the secular version of pleading. Like, I'm pleading with the world.
What kind of scooter? Oh, I haven't got that one yet. It's
somebody better than me show up and lead the revolution, please.
I ride to school every day on a small electric scooter, the small mobility kind, not like a street legal scooter, like a commuter scooter.
He's a military pilot. Not true. He's supposed to be good on all wheels. He gets cut no slack.
Mr. Knitting Cole, something about X Games. Oh man, Shaun White was my hero for like a week and a half. He's such like snowboarding in the X Games.
Anything
awesome.
Knit for him. Nobody in this house appreciates my designs.
Sweet ride, great for local travel. Yeah, it's a Joyor there, and it's really great. Like it survived the crash better than I did, to be honest. And I just looked at the odometer. Noticed the odometer on it just the other day. I've been riding that thing for close to 3 years, and it's got like 3,000 miles on it from just going back and forth to school. So super useful, very efficient. And every once in a while, but sometimes you just catch some bad luck. Anyway,
we do have kids. We have one kid and one toy poodle.
Oh yeah, we do have a toy poodle. Anyway, I'm going to go back to homework. I've got to finish one-handedly writing a science report or a lab report. So lucky me. What are you studying? Agricultural science and technology and global poverty.
It's almost like the two simultaneous conversations are so neurodivergent core.
I know. You're like looking that way. I'm looking this way. And we're just having very, interesting. Get well soon. Thank you. You guys look alike. That's weird. I hope we don't look too alike.
Considering the fact that he looks basically similar to a brother that I did not grow up with.
Well, there is.
It's interesting. But yeah, and then Knitting Cult Baby looks like an exact mix of both of us. So it's pretty cute.
How did you meet? How did you fall in love? Oh, I'll let you tell that story, or you can read the book. Anyway, wear your helmets if you're going to ride anything with essentially less than 4 wheels, or if you're in an unprotected cockpit of a vehicle, like a 4-wheeler or something like that. Anyway, just if it's appropriate to wear a helmet, because it might save your life. At a minimum, it could likely save a concussion. Bye, y'all. Oh, and give money to vote vets.
Okay, so I'm from nowhere state-wise. He's from Washington State, the little red cities outside of Seattle that love Trump. That's where he's from. He doesn't want to be a farmer so much. I mean, he already grows really good. But he wants to work on global hunger, kind of.
I want our food systems to be more sustainable, equitable, and accessible. And the only way to affect that is through science and policy.
So we met on a couple different stories of when it counts. So the first time we met, so I was the senior intelligence officer for a battalion of combat helicopters, and he is a helicopter pilot. Right, so the operations is like, go here, do this, and then they come see my people, and we're like, here's all the things that are going to try to unalive you today. Please come home. The first time we actually met, we were on a run together. We were at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Yes? Never mind. We were on a run. I didn't recognize him, which was strange. And we started talking, and then I introduced myself to him, and he was like, I know who you are. I've been in this unit for 5 years. And I was like, oh, well, maybe the single woman on the staff, primary staff, stands out a little bit more. And then we didn't talk for like 6 months. And then we were on the flight to, it was December 23rd, also known as Christmas Adam, because Adam came before Eve. Probably didn't make sure she came at all. And we were deploying to Afghanistan. And he told me to come over and sit with the cool kids. And so I did. And then he became my running buddy. And he's the first person I ever just told about the cult, like early on. He's like, boom, I grew up in this cult. Go read the Wikipedia page. Come back with questions. And he came back with not ignorant questions, which was nice. Because you don't really know how that's going to go. Oof, I have. Okay, when my people told me that I couldn't get books for 3 more weeks, I had over 700 books to send out. Now I have 200, and then probably 200 that aren't even printed out anymore, or the labels aren't even printed out yet. And I had to turn everything off. But hopefully it's going to come back. And we were trying to work out a way that, like, I'll still sign the books, but then I'll send them to my fulfillment center, the publisher that's doing Culting Up America, and then they'll be able to send them out. We're just trying to figure all that out, because I'm trying to write Culting Up America and also not be a book fulfillment center, but also people are willing to pay 3 times what my books cost for buying them on here. We're not sure. We think that's because the signature matters and supporting me matters, but we're not sure. Mr. Cult Lady thinks RFK is an evil cult leader. The book that I'm packing is Uncultured, which is my book. I finally have the answer for when people say both sides are culty. And I'm like, look, yes, by definition, a 2-party political system, which is black and white, and one side defines themselves as being against the other side. Yes, that's culty. However, I wasn't selling 50 to 200 cult books a day when the Democrats were in office. So, as my agent likes to say, money talks. And yeah, as some people are saying, I think people rather support this than other stuff. Yep, we're all in the house because it is President's Day, so there is no school. But I was saying, so one of the things with my creations that I'm very excited about, because I create way too much stuff, is now that I have an assistant, she's going to help me, and we're going to create Knitting Cult Lady's Closet, and then people can just buy things. But more than buying my things, I just want to encourage people to do their own fiber arts, Because one, it's great for healing, and two, knitting is Morse code, and fiber arts have always been political. The cult I grew up in was called the Children of God, and it was the one that was into God is love, and love is schmecks, and schmecks should be shared with everyone, including the children. And I was born 3 generations into it. My grandfather still runs the money. My father is older than my grandfather, and I have 24 siblings. Oh, and I'm 37, and my mother's 52. For a few more weeks. Speaking of which, what's a good mom birthday present? I need ideas. Please. Thank you. The cult closet be on Etsy. It's probably going to be on Etsy. I think I'm also going to find a way to like make myself, because on TikTok, you have to choose to either sell stuff yourself or have a fulfillment center. And so I'm switching over to fulfillment center. But if I can just have my IT guys make me a fulfillment center on my website so that I can fulfill my own crafts, I think that's the way we'll do it. But TikTok also doesn't let you sell used stuff. So it might just be on Etsy. Get her a crystal. That seems culty. When I had a broken leg, my mom tried to heal me with crystals and finger touching and energy, but because I had a big cast on, she couldn't touch the part that had pain. So she had my sister lie next to me and touch me, and then she touched my sister's leg, and that was supposed to heal my pain. Later, she gave me 2 glasses of wine. I was 13. Yeah, I'm starting to have a whole bunch. Okay, where do you start with knitting? Find a YouTube channel that teaches children, and then also understand that like it's just about how you hold your hands, and like it's complicated, but you will get it. So don't like give up. No, giving my mom knit things is not. She does just as many crafts as me. Thinking, get her a mother's ring. That's a lot of stones. I've done a lot of mother's things. And like when I do it, I usually just do it with the 8 children that she birthed. And we only have, I want to say we only have 4 birthstones or maybe 5 because we have a lot of pairs. But I got her last year. She lost a child and she really loves mother of pearl. And I had this huge oyster shell that Mr. Knitting Cult Lady found in the ocean once. And so I got 7 black pearls and then 1 white pearl. And I glued them on the shell. And then I wrote mother of pearls. And she cried a lot. And I was proud of that gift. You crochet. This is crocheted. I crochet potentially more than I knit, at least almost as much. Because crochet is very cool and you can make more stuff out of it. It also can only be done by hand and it's more expensive. Is the cult still together? So like, yes and no, right? For 50 years, the Children of God was 10,000 people, army all over the world, selling millions and millions of products, bringing in stuff. In 2009, they went through what happens, how cults end, which is when they fail, like without a big conflagration, which is when they fail to keep or recruit the next generation. In my opinion, the Mormons are going through this now. Many big religions are going through this now. And MAGA's going through this now already. Like they're not, who didn't vote for Trump? Young women. So they're not keeping the children. And so the Children of God went through very quickly within like under a year, the tipping point where there was just no more people. And they were like, just joking. Keep giving us your money. So the last time I had a spy in place steal their year-end report was in 2021. And they still had 1,400 people. They were still bringing in like $1 million a year, but very anemic and not at all like most of us that grew like the Children of God that we grew up in doesn't exist anymore. There are still some people being insane, like my grandfather. And you should definitely learn to crochet and knit at the same time. Just like pick them up both. At the same time, I think that's perfect. There's so many things, but there's also this thing of like, so like something I've really noticed once I've made this like a part of my life and my career is this thing called glimmers. And so glimmers are the opposite of triggers. And a glimmer is like something that just brings you joy. And I think yarn is very glimmery, and that also just in general, like most people have like some quirky fiber arts lady or person in their life whom they love. And it also like really helps you sort through the misogynists. Like that guy that came up on you and was like, why are you wearing crazy earrings? I would just know not to talk to that man. So those things are nice too. And also like, I am so cold. I always thought it was because I grew up at the equator. I now know it's because I'm sensory sensitive to everything. But like, I'm very cold. And I'm also like low key always, I just think a little bit sad when it's not summer, because it's a constant reminder that I'm not from here. I don't belong here. I have no home. When I moved from Brazil when I was 14 and came to the US for the first time, it was San Diego in April, and it was the coldest place I had ever been. And so I can't stand being cold. Yeah, I have a sauna upstairs in my house and tons of yarn to always wrap myself up in. But please stick around for spring and summer, because my summer wardrobe is also phenomenal. It's even brighter, if you can imagine. Yeah, the problem with America is like all of the warm places are awful. Like, I'm not going to live in Texas. I'm not going to live in Florida. And but like DC is where I am now. And this is about as far north as I will go. Seattle was surprisingly okay, because same thing with DC, like the water keeps it warmer. Crochet, I do think is easier. Yes. And if you want to start crochet, I say do a wig. And that's actually, I made this little quilty knitting patterns book. It does not teach you how to knit or crochet, but the bonus pattern I put in at the end was a wig. This is the wig that I made. And you get a wig cap with holes, and you need to know how to do a chain stitch and a half double crochet, and then you just have to do it thousands of times. And when you're not using it as a wig, it could be a plant. This is available on Patreon. You can get it as a PDF download, which is intended to be. You can also pay me $30 to print it out and sign it for you, and then that's in the shop. But it's just intended to be a thing. But when I count it up, so this has 6 patterns and a bonus. When I counted up how many things I have invented, I think I got to like 47, which is fun. That's our lucky number. That's my husband's helicopter. So I'm absolutely going to do like a quilty knitting patterns coffee table book one day. That's going to have like lots of photos and be good. It was funny because my daughter is doing an ice skating synchronization team. They had their first competition on Saturday. They got bronze. We're very, very proud. The lady that runs it was like, I was the least surprised I've ever been in my life when she was like, we homeschool. And then people wanted my pattern book. And I'm like, okay, but you should know I'm a quilt scholar, and these things come mixed together. Like, you're getting the love bomb color, but you're also getting a page about what love bombing is. And your 9-year-old's going to read that. Painting class. I need to do that. I was just seeing the box. I need to do it again. I'm going to do a virtual paint and sip. I planned one and then I canceled because it was too much. And I'm still dealing with my champagne problems of blowing up and becoming the Blue JD Vance ever since the election. So like, I'm not at all complaining. I'm just struggling to find the time to actually add additional things. But I'm definitely going to do it. I also need to paint more. And there's a nice little, oh, Karen, you bought the pack. Yeah, there's a nice little pack on Amazon that you just like buy, and we're going to do that. And obviously if you have stuff. What's always my favorite, okay, this is always my favorite about doing a paint and sip class in person, because there's always somebody who shows up and doesn't at all do what the teacher's doing, what the class is doing, like, which is fine. But what that means is all you were looking for was permission, was someone to just give you permission to put paint on a canvas. And you know what? I give you permission. You can go buy paint and canvases at Michael's anytime you want and just start painting. That was my experience. So this was when I was at Walter Reed recovering, which you can read about the end of Uncultured, and I was super bored. So I went to a paint and sip night, and I was like, oh, I could teach people how to do this. And so then I literally left that class, went to Michael's the next day, got a bunch of paint stuff, and just started painting and copying everything I could until I could design my own stuff. And then I did. Books. Believe it or not, in a shocking turn of events, Amazon does not package books well. Do I deal with chronic pain from all the injuries? I do. And I mean, just also autoimmune disorders are the price we pay for being born as cult children, usually. So I have a lot of things. I keep trying wheat again as I heal to be like, maybe it won't try to attack me. Okay, you took the puppy outside? Child. Señorita. Hey. Did you take the puppy outside? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have paint colors and vibe. Oops. Lanisha, we ripped your thing. Cuidado. Cuidado. Você lembra? Cuidado means careful. No.
But I need it.
First of all, I'm actively using it. Second of all, just tugging the cord until it comes free is not how this works. Thank you. Do I do holistic? My husband is really good at growing things hydroponically, and also I get a lot of different medications. So like for the intractable migraines, which are brainstem migraines, which are called Alice in Wonderland migraines, because they F up your world along with everything. A nice combination of Botox every 3 months and some prophylactic medications I can't take. Sorry, no, I can't take the prophylactic medications because they all put you at risk for stroke, and you're already at a high risk of stroke if you have brainstem migraines. So does most birth control. So it's been a long, hard road to follow. Adult coloring is a really good one. And after I finish Culturing of America, I'm starting the project now. I'm pricing the project now. But I've written a children's book called Mommy, I Lost My Smile. And then I realized it was as much for like first generation parents like me as it was for kids. It's also really expensive to publish kids' books because they have to be in color. And so I decided I'm going to publish it as an adult coloring book. And I really like to do that. Okay, this time I'm going to get the question right. How many books do I have, which means how many have I written? I've written 3. 1 of them is published. 2 of them will hopefully be published in the next 2 years. I'm also working on a novel soon. I have about 5 books I know of now that I'm going to write. And then, everybody's like, can't wait to see what book you write about this going on. And I'm already tired. I'm already tired. Also not complaining because I built a dream life where all I have to do is knit and talk about books to the internet. Look at this thing that I made. Plastic necklace. And then I added the rest. I don't enjoy theme parks very much. It's actually just hard to snap your fingers and imagine childhood, but I think for me it's just overwhelming. I have 2 podcasts. One is called Cults and the Culting of America, and it's like this show, but with guests. And one of them is called Hey White Women, and it is deconstructing white supremacy like the cult that it is. And we crochet. And if you've read Uncultured and you want more right now, on my Matreon, starts with a P, but we call it Patreon in here. There's in my shop a thing called Un-American, a video book. And if you're a subscriber, you can listen to it for free. I also post my podcast videos on there and stuff. But it's the second memoir that I wrote after the Army asked me to testify against my ex-husband of a decade prior for white supremacy. Hi, Stuttgart! Oh, I love Germany. I spent a semester in Germany in college in Baden-Württemberg at University of Zeppelin, and it was so amazing. All the best children's stories are good for all ages. And there's this other thing I learned when I was writing the children's book, and at one point I told my agent, like, oh, hey, I'm going to read the book to a bunch of elementary kids. And he was like, I mean, great if you want to, but kids don't buy kids' books. Adults buy kids' books. So it doesn't really matter what kids think. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. I did live in Brazil. I lived in Brazil for 10 years. From the age of 4 to almost 14. And I do speak Portuguese. And I did raise Knitting Cult Baby in Portuguese for 5 years. No, it's Matreon because you can't say the names of other social media platforms when you're on TikTok or they will penalize you. But then I came up with Matreon and it was even better. So I pretty much call it that all the time now. Because not everything has to be about men. I've not heard about what's happening at the schools on base in Stuttgart. Their protests. That's good. I've heard about Fort Campbell, which is an army town, getting rid of all books that mention slavery. And somehow I imagine they didn't get rid of the Bible. Speaking of books that mention slavery. So Un-American, the book that I wrote, was after finding out that my ex-husband, again from a decade prior, was a out and out white supremacist. And I, at that point, and still am, an expert on radicalization and white supremacy. I don't think I was ever, I was born and raised in what I later realized was a very white supremacist cult, even though, again, they kind of broke it by going international. I don't think I ever actively had bad thoughts about people that weren't white, but part of what I'm saying in Un-American is that white supremacy is working to radicalize white people from the moment they set foot in America. And so I think we're all white supremacists to a certain extent because you can't be in a cult and not get affected. And according to my own model, part of why we started the Hey White Women podcast was I was like, okay, I have this model of leaving a cult, which includes the crack and the brainwashing and physically, mentally leaving, and then a decade of deconstruction. And I've maybe done half of that. And so just because you decide you don't want to be in the cult of white supremacy doesn't mean you all of a sudden don't have any of that stuff anymore. So my value is always in having the extreme story and having the ability to talk about it. but also I had that realization of like, oh crap, was I almost their Serena Joy? You know, and I don't think I would have been me personally, but who knows? But see, this is what I mean by panic. Does Vanity Fair actually say they are now putting mentally ill in camps? Because yesterday somebody was like, oh, they just said blacks can't be in the army anymore. And it took me like 2 minutes to look it up and be like, no, they stopped recruiting at a major HBCU that gets engineers into the military. That's bad. That's shitty, but it's not what you said. And I'm pretty sure Vanity Fair had said, we're putting mentally ill people in camps. Like, we would be rioting. So what I want to know is, what did Vanity Fair actually say? Yeah, lots of fear mongering, lots of scare tactics. Neurotypicals can be controlled. Oh, I agree with that. Yeah, exactly. It's a plan RFK has floated. It's really shitty stuff that they're talking about, but help, the sky is falling doesn't help anyone. RFK saying he wants to put people in camps is not the same as they are putting people in camps. Elon Musk getting access to the Department of Education was not what people in here were screaming about up 2 Fridays ago. He shut down the Department of Education. Like, so, yeah, the keep is scary enough. Let's have the actual information. Yeah, we're all afraid of what fresh awfulness is going to happen tomorrow. But defining the threat as it actually is extremely important when you're living in dangerous times. If RFK is going to start a revolution where they take away meds, then we all need to be on top of it. We all need to know exactly what's going on. The confusion, the fear, and the panic is not helpful. They are not putting mentally ill people in concentration camps. I'm right here. They've done nothing to me. Sit down, calm down, figure out what's actually happening. Because it's very white, the freaking out right now. And in my opinion, it's very tied to white supremacy and the fact that we know as white people, our children in America are safe. And now all of a sudden we're afraid that we're not. They're not. And like, this has been true for non-white people's children in America every day, all of the time. Yeah, if you're fighting shadows, you're not going to win. I like that. Someone says here, it's hard to hear problems without solutions. And I actually think that it's this attitude is dangerous and problematic everywhere we see it. The world's big, complicated problems don't have solutions. If anyone knew what to do right now, they would be doing it. And the people that diagnose the problems are almost never the ones that come up with the solutions. Your doctor who diagnoses you with whatever illness you have was almost certainly not the one that came up with the medications. And it was people sitting around talking about the problems that helped. And so just because stuff makes you feel uncomfortable, discomfort is not the same as danger. Talking through the problems is exactly how we solve things. Understanding the similarities here. It's my people running the government. I'm a good person to listen to, even though I don't know how to fix it. No, I'm not being serious. This woman was telling people to move to a cult. What are we even talking about? The Pope sent out a message to all the bishops in America saying that Shady Vance was a shizzy person. I love that. So, like, what's going to happen? Nick, I don't have a magic ball hiding anywhere. Like, I know I'm very witchy, but nobody knows what's going to happen. And anyone telling you that they know what's going to happen is trying to cult you or con you. And anyone giving you a simple solution is trying to cult you or con you. Acting like you know the outcome is a thing called teleological thinking. And it's a huge reason that we're dealing with America today. Nobody knows what's going to happen when a cult leader is in power. People were saying that Jonestown was a cult for 20 years. 20 years! And they still didn't know that it was going to be a mass murder. So this is one of those things to listen for, in addition to these huge freak out statements. It's like when people are acting like they know what's going to happen, or when people are like, oh yeah, there's this simple solution. Like, Elon Musk is not taking us to Mars when the world's best scientists have failed to build an ecodome. Oh, I knew the Catholics were going to come out and drag them. That was on my bingo card. I'm just waiting. I honestly cannot wait for the trad Catholics and the Mormons that have done their deal with evangelical Satan to understand how much evangelicals hate them. I mean, it is still shocking to me how pro-Catholic the US is, because white evangelical Americans hate Catholics so much. And they don't realize it. And neither do the Mormons. And like, America's done a drug deal with white Catholics and white Mormons because they're shiny, well-groomed white people. But now the Christian nationalists are in power, and they hate the Catholics, and they hate the Mormons, and they will come for them soon. And that's going to be very interesting. Especially because I know some very, very strict Catholics who are all about Trump right now and are in the military. I mean, white evangelicals hate everyone, but they hate Mormons and Catholics very much. I mean, we don't know what going after them is going to look like. It's the whole thing. Like, again, Everyone, this is part of the problem with teleological thinking, is everyone thinks like it's going to happen how it's going to happen before. And as I believe Hannah Arendt said, when fascism comes to America, it's going to look very American. You cannot buy this sweater anywhere. The sweater was made from connecting a year's worth of scraps and then crocheting and knitting them all together. It's not just because of the Pope, it's because they're different. People in cults hate everyone who's not in the cult. I mean, we should all be worried about our kids and camps and things that are happening right now. But be worried means ask yourself the really hard questions about what positions of privilege you are in and what you can do and what you can sacrifice to fight it. Not just sit in your house and panic. And also remember, the world is watching. And I know in America, we like to act like we're super powerful and nobody else in the world gets a vote, but that's just not true. We were not fighting in Afghanistan by ourselves. We were fighting with 66 other countries. It's really fun when people like to get on their high horse about what America stands. Okay. Yeah, you should take your AR to the next meeting if you want to get shot. The rest of the world is not moving on without us. That is a sign that that is a statement that shows how much you do not understand globalization. No major country in the world is doing anything without affecting the other. Certainly not America. And the world cannot move on without us. They're actively freaking out and trying to figure out how they are going to band together to, yeah, exactly, uniting against us. Very different than moving on without us. Very significantly different. Yes, America has always been a Protestant nation. It's so funny. As I'm explaining the military to people, people are like, so would it be problematic if the military became overwhelmingly one religion? You mean Christian evangelical? Yes, it's been a problem the whole time our military has existed. Yes, that's also why leaving is useless. Exactly. Hey, New York. Religion does divide, but the good news is we are living through the largest walking away of religion in history. And you can clamp down as hard as you want, but it's almost impossible to keep people in cults by force. So, you know, your time will come. It's basically impossible to stop progress. All these things that they're saying about everything now they were saying about Jane Austen in her day, and like we still read Jane Austen. Yeah, I think it's their extinction burst. I think they are trying really, really hard to stay in power. But like the military is the perfect example, right? You were only going to be successful at keeping different people out when you told yourself it could never work. That's why they had to make so many laws and rules against who could be in the military. Now that we know Black people can be soldiers and officers and women can be soldiers and officers, like it's too late. So they can try. I really think that what needs to happen is that white women, even the 48% that didn't vote for Donald Trump, are going to have to suffer and realize that we control them. We don't want to do that because it's really hard. My husband at one point, before he was fully pink-pilled, said to me, you know, sometimes it feels like you care about feminism more than about our marriage. And I looked at him and I said, feminism is not me against you. It is me and you against our girl child having a 1 in 3 chance in being assaulted before she gets to college. And I don't know what I would have done if he looked at me and said that that didn't matter, because that broke through to him. But for many, many, many white women, realizing that you have the power is also going to be realizing that your spouse doesn't see you as a full and equal human. Because why the fuck aren't the men freaking out right now? And when that happens, and this is also part of why I think the panic really pisses me off right now. Because if we really ask what we're afraid of, like we're afraid of our children not coming home. And that already happens in America. Every day, all the time. Jillian. I mean, now they love Jane Austen because now the conservatives love books that show women being demure. And they read things wrong. By far and large, the majority of people that read Jane Austen don't understand that she is mocking the society that she is writing about. It is the truth commonly known that a man in possession of a fortune must be in search of a wife. Yeah, no, exactly. I'm also begging white women in my proximity, and they don't care. And that's why I'm saying, like, when the police pulling over a white 16-year-old boy means that white 16-year-old boy might not be coming home, we'll be rioting. We'll be doing stuff. Because we have a racist country. And every version of like, what should we do? And then the answer is go fight, go put yourself out there. Like, that's not the answer people want to hear. But like, most people survive in dictatorships too. It just sucks. Who can stop the American people? 340 million American people can stop whatever we don't want to happen. That's the question. What's happening right now is none of the right people are freaking out. And this is why I said, as soon as white ladies like me are wondering if their children are going to come home, we can grab them by the man pearls and make them do what we want. Fixed. We're not going to get to choose if we can do it with or without violence, because mass movements are mass movements. They happen with certain triggers. As we know, Black people in America who already know they are not safe riot regularly in correct response to atrocities. White people don't, because we know we're still safe. As soon as we truly understand that we are not safe, we are going to fix it. This is the same thing I say to men in the military. When there was a rapist running around Kandahar airfield, raping men, they caught him in 3 days. If there was anywhere on a military post that was dangerous for men to go to, they would solve it. And if it was dangerous for white women to walk outside in America or send their children outside, we would solve it. And we will. Right now, white women have massively failed the rest of the country. Why would you go riot and loot if you knew you weren't safe? Because people don't enjoy having their children unalived. And because people who are having their children unalived realize that rioting is how you get attention and is how you make your will known. That's why it's very, very privileged to talk about rioting and looting as an option. Sit down. When you have to have a discussion with your children that if they get stopped by the cops, they might be in more danger, which I've had to have by living in Mexico, you will understand. And in the meantime, try to take off some of your privilege and understand that this already happens every day. Every day, Black children in America are unalived because the rest of us don't care enough to riot and loot things for the lives of those children. Rioting does not happen because you know you are safe. Sit down. You have no idea what you are talking about. So just shh. This is what I'm talking about. This is the caucasity that people are approaching with. I'm absolutely promoting looting. Yes. In response to human lives being taken by white supremacy and racism and fascism, yes, I'm fucking recommending looting. Are you actually sitting here and implying that somebody's storefront is more important than somebody else's mother effing child? You are what is wrong with America. Sit down. TikTok's going to punish me for that one. Honey, you can tell me I'm what's wrong with America all you want, but your hate's giving me money and allowing me to keep doing this. So have a day. I also don't appreciate being called Danny because that's the cult name. Only Brazilians are allowed to do that. If my blonde, white, small little child was murdered in the middle of America, you would be looting too. So ask yourself, what really the F is your problem? somebody has to stand up for the
What's wrong
kids.
with yours?
Exactly. And like this is the whole point. The whole point of fascism is to get me to think that protecting my child is more important than the little Indian child who lives next door. F that. Martial law comes marching down my streets. I will be parked in a lawn chair and I will put my little white bosom in the rifle and dare them to do it, because they won't, because we live in white supremacy and we know that. And that's why we're not rioting. White women need to realize that their only value to the white supremacist system is that only white women can make white men. Yes, I know that I'm safe. I would walk out to a platoon full of soldiers and put myself in front of their rifles, exactly because I know that I am safe, because this is the face they have been taught has value, and they wouldn't shoot me. That's why. That's what you do with whiteness. You use it as a shield for those who don't have it, and you use it as a weapon for those who want to keep white supremacy in place. And now I'm getting rid of you because I don't want you in my life anymore. Yeah, more people need to be shut down this way. More white women specifically need to stop caring about people being angry at them and start letting people know that they are not a safe place to be racist. Yeah, I love this. Not a mom, so if your kid needs help, I'll be there. This is what we need. We need the grown-ups in the country to start protecting all of the children. It's not even a little bit true that Hitler's squads didn't discriminate. The whole point was discrimination. Shh. Learn history, do better. This is why people in Hitler's Germany literally used their whiteness to protect the people that the squads were discriminating against. Guess I'm out of books. Yeah, that was the whole point. The whole point of the squads. Yeah. I mean, really, I just need everyone to just like stop saying the word revolution. If it's just a given that you're going to survive, then you're not in the revolution. You're just protecting yourself and complaining. I think it's funny when people are like, "Oh yeah, so what would you do?" I am a soldier. I would go put myself out there between the war and people, children specifically. That's what I would do. There's a reason why when the shooting happened in the theater in Colorado Springs, so many veterans were like, why did it take so long for someone to rush the shooter? Because like that's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're trained to do. And there's not much different between the methodology of herding people into gas chambers and herding people into discriminatory mechanisms. Exactly. And that's also why, if you've never paid attention to this, I'm about to ruin it for you, but why apocalyptic and zombie and otherwise fiction is really kind of a tool of white supremacy. Because it's just like, if you can dehumanize these people, then you can unalive them in graphic ways, and we'll all see it as a sport. And that's really the thing that we have to be doing, is like right now, they're working very, very hard to dehumanize trans people and immigrants and adding more and more people to it. Like, you can't let them do it. Yeah, I'm sad about America, so I'm going to go write a book. Thanks for hanging out with me. Yeah. I would just beg you that if you're middle class in America, to think about your privilege and what you're willing to give up for other people's safety. And if you're white and middle class in America, to do that like 10 times in a row.